You've stopped texting. You've stopped checking your phone. You've even convinced your friends to take your side. You say you're doing no contact. But let's be honest, you're still in contact because silence doesn't mean peace when your mind is still screaming their name, when your body still jolts every time your phone lights up, when your first thought in the morning is still, I wonder if they miss me yet. That's not no contact. That's emotional surveillance. That's your nervous system on high alert, waiting for something that might never come. And listen, I'm not judging you. I've been there. I know that empty space where a text used to land can feel like a black hole. I know what it's like to stare at the ceiling at 2 a.m. and whisper to yourself, don't cave, don't reach out, stay strong. But here's the truth. No one tells you no contact isn't about them. It's about you. It's not a strategy to make them miss you. It's not a punishment to prove your worth. It's a decision to stop performing for someone else's attention and start protecting your peace. Because when you cut contact but still obsess over their silence, you haven't gone no contact. You've just gone quietly addicted. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. What if the no contact rule isn't the end of communication, but the beginning of transformation? What if the silence you fear is actually the mirror you've been avoiding, the one that shows you what you really need to see about yourself? You think you're trying to forget them, but really, you're trying to remember you. This isn't about ghosting, blocking, or pretending you're fine. It's about understanding what silence is actually for. Because silence, when it's intentional, is not emptiness. It's a boundary. It's power. It's self-respect in its purest form. So for the next few minutes, I want you to walk with me into that silence, not to escape the pain, but to understand it. Because when you see what's really happening inside of you, the craving, the waiting, the overthinking, that's when the shift begins. You'll stop using no contact as a weapon and start using it as a mirror. You'll stop wondering if they miss you and start noticing how much of yourself you've been missing. And that's the real story of no contact. It's not about what disappears when they leave. It's about what reappears when you finally return to you. Let's be real for a second. Most people don't go no contact to heal. They go no contact to win. You tell yourself, I'm doing this for me, but deep down, you're watching the clock. You're checking if they viewed your story. You're posting a quote just subtle enough for them to see. You're waiting for that text that says, hey, I've been thinking about you. That's not no contact. That's emotional chess. That's you trying to control the board when the game is already over. And I get it because control feels safer than pain. Silence feels powerful when you think it's punishing someone. But that's not power. That's performance. Let me tell you something straight. You don't heal by performing calm. You heal by becoming calm. No contact was never meant to be a tactic to make them chase you. It was meant to be a choice to stop chasing chaos. Because if your silence is secretly screaming, I hope they notice, you're still trapped in their story. You're just whispering instead of shouting. And this is where people get stuck. They confuse stillness with strategy. They think if I say nothing, they'll come running. But silence isn't a fishing line. It's a mirror. If you go quiet just to make noise in their mind, that's manipulation, not maturity. And manipulation always backfires. You might get their attention for a moment, but you'll lose your peace again the second they respond. Why? Because you're still giving them control over your nervous system. You're still handing them the keys to your calm. You're not doing no contact, you're doing conditional contact. And conditional peace is not peace. Here's what I want you to understand. No contact isn't a test for them. It's a test for you. Can you stay grounded even when you don't get what you want? Can you hold your silence without turning it into a stage play? Can you choose your peace over your ego? Because that's where the real transformation begins. When you stop using silence to control someone else and start using it to meet yourself, you can't heal from someone while secretly hoping your absence will fix them. You can't rebuild your self-worth while still measuring it by how long it takes for them to reach out. And you can't grow while sitting in the waiting room of someone else's realization. So the next time you find yourself saying, I'm in no contact, I want you to pause and ask, why? Is it to get them back or to get you back? Because only one of those leads to peace. The other just leads to another cycle of pain, silence, and pretending you're fine. And I promise you, when you stop performing, when you drop the act, when you finally admit this isn't about them anymore, that's when you actually start to heal. That's when the silence stops being a wall and becomes a doorway. Let's talk about silence, because silence has a reputation problem. Most people think silence means weakness, like you've given up. But silence, when it's chosen, isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Silence is not the absence of noise. It's the space where truth finally has room to breathe. You see, when we stop talking, when we stop explaining, when we stop defending ourselves, something powerful starts to happen. The noise that once filled our minds begins to fade, and what's left behind is the truth. And the truth can be uncomfortable because silence doesn't protect you from pain, it reveals it. It shows you what's really been running the show inside you: fear, control, insecurity, longing. It's like a mirror you can't look away from. That's why so many people break no contact, not because they miss the person, but because they can't stand what silence shows them about themselves. But here's what I need you to know. Silence is not punishment, it's purification. It's the nervous system finally catching its breath. It's your brain rewiring itself to find calm without chaos. You've been conditioned to think connection only exists through conversation, that peace lives in someone else's response. But what if peace actually lives in your own pause? When you choose silence from a place of self-respect, you're not disconnecting, you're recalibrating. You're resetting your emotional circuitry. You're saying to your nervous system, hey, we're safe now. We don't have to chase anymore. And yes, it's uncomfortable. At first, it feels like you've lost your voice. But stay in that silence long enough, and you'll realize you haven't lost it, you're just learning to listen to it. Because silence speaks. It says, you've given enough. It says, you don't have to fix anyone to be worthy. It says your peace is not negotiable anymore. That's the truth about silence. It's not passive. It's not waiting. It's active healing. And the moment you stop treating silence as a tactic and start treating it as therapy, everything changes. You stop obsessing over how they're responding and start observing how you're recovering. You begin to realize that silence isn't empty, it's full of all the strength, clarity, and power that chaos kept drowning out. So when the quiet starts to hurt, don't rush to fill it. Sit in it, breathe in it, because silence doesn't mean something's missing. It means something real is returning. This is where it gets hard, because silence doesn't just reveal the truth, it flushes it out. When you finally stop reaching out, your body goes through withdrawal. Yes, withdrawal. Just like detoxing from a drug, you don't crave them, you crave the chemical hit their presence used to give you. The dopamine from every message, the adrenaline from every fight, the comfort from every apology. That's not love. That's a nervous system on survival mode. And when you remove that source of stimulation, your brain panics. It starts whispering lies. What if they've moved on? What if they never cared? What if you made a mistake? That's not your intuition talking. That's your body begging for its fix. You see, we don't just get addicted to people, we get addicted to the emotions they trigger. To the rush, the drama, the hope, even the hurt becomes familiar. So when it's gone, silence feels unbearable. And your brain starts to scream, reach out, say something, break it. But listen, that's not a sign that you're weak. It's a sign that you're healing. You're breaking the pattern. You're interrupting the loop your mind has been trapped in. Because every time you resist the urge to text, every time you sit in the discomfort instead of escaping it, you're teaching your body something new. Peace can exist without chaos. Love can exist without fear. You can exist without them. That's the detox. It's not glamorous. It's not quick. It's the part where your heart shakes and your hands tremble, and you think, maybe this isn't working. But it is, because every day you choose not to reach for what hurt you, your nervous system starts to trust you again. You start to realize that calm isn't boring, it's safe. That silence isn't rejection, it's relief. Here's what I want you to understand. Healing isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about caring differently. It's about saying, I still love you, but I love myself enough not to chase you. And in that moment, when you feel that ache, the urge to fix, to check, to call, pause, put your hand on your chest, breathe, and remind yourself, this is the sound of my body learning peace. Because you can't build a new life with the same nervous system that was trained by pain. You have to retrain it one quiet, trembling moment at a time. That's what the emotional detox is. It's not about deleting their number. It's about deleting the version of you who needed their attention to feel alive. It's the process of returning home to yourself. So when the silence feels unbearable, don't run from it. Stay. Because what feels like emptiness is actually your power clearing space to grow. At some point, and it usually sneaks up on you, the silence stops feeling like a punishment and starts feeling like a pause. That's the shift. The moment when you stop reacting to them and start reconnecting with you. You've spent so long chasing emotional crumbs that when you finally sit down at your own table, it feels strange to eat alone. You keep looking around, waiting for someone else to fill your plate, but this is where you learn. You were always the meal. You were always the source. You see, reaction is about them. Reconnection is about you. Reaction says, what are they doing? Reconnection asks, what am I feeling? Reaction keeps your power external. Reconnection brings it home. So here's where your real work begins, not in silence, but in stillness. Start small. When you wake up, don't grab your phone. Place your hand on your heart instead and ask yourself, what do I need right now? Not what do they think? Not did they text? What do I need? Because when you stop chasing answers from other people, your intuition finally gets a chance to speak. And it always speaks softly, not through pings or posts, but through peace. I teach something simple that works like magic, the 5-second rule. The moment your brain starts spiraling, the moment your hand reaches for the phone, count backward. Wusa Senaryi, then stand up, move your body, change your environment, redirect your energy. That countdown isn't just a trick, it's a pattern interrupt. It's your nervous system learning a new truth. I'm not powerless anymore. And each time you do it, you're taking a piece of your life back, piece by piece, decision by decision. Here's the beauty of it. When you stop reacting, you stop dancing to their rhythm. Your energy stops orbiting their silence. And for the first time, you start hearing a different sound, the sound of your own life calling you forward. That's what reconnection feels like. It's quiet, but it's not empty. It's gentle, but it's strong. It's the moment you realize that all the peace you were trying to get from them was inside you the whole time. And that shift from reaction to reconnection is when you cross a line you'll never uncross. You'll still have thoughts about them, sure, but they'll no longer own your day. Their silence will no longer feel like a command, it'll just be background noise. Because once you taste peace that comes from you, chaos loses its flavor. That's when healing starts to feel like freedom, not effort. Here's what's wild. While you're over here learning to breathe again, they're starting to choke on the silence. See, silence doesn't just talk to you. It talks to them too. At first, they act like it doesn't matter. They'll post something. They'll stay busy. They'll laugh a little louder. They'll convince themselves they're fine. But silence has a way of echoing, especially for someone who's used to you being the noise that keeps them comfortable. Your presence was their reassurance. Your messages were their mirror. And now that mirror is gone. And the avoidant, the one who ran, who pulled away, who said they needed space, they start to feel the vacuum. Not right away, but slowly. They feel the absence of your emotional energy. They feel the quiet where your care used to be. But here's the key. That's their process. That's their mirror. It's not your job to manage it anymore. While they're sitting in their silence, wrestling with accountability, You're sitting in yours rebuilding your identity because your silence isn't about control. It's about clarity. It's the moment your self-worth stops being attached to someone else's attention span. And here's what you need to know. They might start to miss you, but you're not supposed to wait for that because missing you doesn't equal ready for you. Their realization is not your rescue. You're not healing, so they'll come back. You're healing, so you never go back. While they're questioning what they lost, you're remembering what you found, your boundaries, your focus, your voice. That's the split in the story. They feel absence. You find presence. They start to face the truth. You start to embody it. And that's what makes this part of the journey so sacred. Because for the first time, you're no longer the one waiting. You're the one waking up. You begin to see that the silence you thought was loneliness was actually detox, and now it's becoming strength. The craving turns into calm. The ache turns into awareness. And what used to feel like rejection starts to look a lot like redirection. That's the beauty of healing. It's not loud. It's not a big announcement. It's the quiet confidence of knowing, I'm not chasing anymore. I'm choosing. And let me tell you something, they'll feel that energy shift. They always do. Because when someone stops trying to earn love and starts embodying it, that energy speaks louder than any text ever could. So while they feel the silence as loss, you feel it as liberation. They're facing regret. You're tasting peace. And the balance, that's the universe doing its job. Because what they feel is what you used to feel. And what you're healing is what they still run from. That's when you realize the silence didn't break you. It broke the illusion that you needed them to be whole. All right, let's talk about what real no contact actually means. Because this isn't about games. This is about growth. This is where silence stops being a reaction and becomes a revolution. I call them the 5 new rules of real no contact. And once you live by these, you'll never confuse distance with power again. Rule has shown silence is a boundary, not a strategy. You don't go silent to get a reaction. You go silent to get relief. You're not withholding to teach them a lesson. You're withdrawing to protect your peace. Because boundaries are not walls. They're doors. You close gently when chaos won't knock, politely. And listen, you don't owe anyone an explanation for your peace. You don't need to justify your quiet. Your energy is sacred real estate. Not everyone gets access. Rule #2, no contact is for healing, not manipulation. If your silence has a motive, it's not healing, it's performance. Real no contact is like rehab. It's the withdrawal that rewires your sense of worth. It's the moment you stop asking, what are they doing? And start asking, what am I becoming? And yes, it's hard. Because healing looks boring compared to chasing chaos. But peace is the most addictive thing you'll ever discover once you taste it. Rule #3, stillness is work. Don't let anyone tell you that doing nothing isn't doing something. Stillness is active recovery. It's the gym for your nervous system. Every time you resist the urge to check your phone, you're building emotional muscle. Every time you choose breath over reaction, you're retraining your brain to trust calm again. Stillness doesn't mean weakness. It means mastery. Because when you can stay centered in silence, you stop being controlled by noise. Rule #4, forgiveness without access is power. Forgiving someone doesn't mean letting them back in. Forgiveness is saying, I release this story, but I keep my boundaries. You don't need closure from them. You need clarity within yourself. And sometimes the only apology you'll ever get is the one you whisper to your own heart. I'm sorry I kept breaking myself to keep them comfortable. That's the moment forgiveness becomes freedom, not reunion. Rule #5 reconnection starts with you, not them. The whole point of no contact isn't to get them back. It's to get you back. Because when you reconnect with your own peace, your own rhythm, your own self-respect, your energy changes. You stop chasing attention and you start attracting alignment. You stop begging for closure and you start building confidence. That's when the real magic happens. You stop needing love to come from them because you've remembered how to generate it yourself. These 5 rules aren't just steps, they're a new standard. The moment you live by them, you stop being the person who survives relationships and start being the person who transforms through them. Because no contact isn't the end of the story. It's the rewrite. And then it happens. Just when your life starts to feel light again, when your mornings no longer ache, when your peace feels real, they come back. Maybe it's a message that pops up out of nowhere. Hey, 2 letters. That's all it takes to reopen a door you fought like hell to close. Your stomach flips. Your heart skips. Your mind starts to sprint. Should I respond? What do they want? Have they changed? This is the moment that tests everything you've built. Because no contact was never supposed to last forever. It was supposed to last until you could trust yourself again. And now that they're back, this isn't their test anymore. It's yours. The universe is asking, have you learned to choose peace over panic, clarity over craving, boundaries over validation? Because here's what I need you to remember. They're not reaching out because they've suddenly evolved overnight. They're reaching out because your absence echoed in their life louder than your presence ever did. They're not feeling your silence as rejection. They're feeling it as reflection. And that's okay. That's their journey. But your journey, it's to stay awake. Before you reply, pause. Ask yourself one question. Does this conversation serve the person I've become or the person I used to be? Because you can love someone and still know they're not safe for your peace. You can forgive someone without re-entering their chaos. You can feel the pull and still choose the pause. That's what growth looks like, not pretending you don't care, but refusing to collapse where you once did. And let's be honest, your silence changed everything. Not just for them, but for you. You've built stillness that no message can shake. You've built peace that doesn't depend on anyone's attention. So when they come back, and yes, some of them will, you won't need to prove anything. You won't need to explain your worth or justify your distance. You'll just know. You'll feel it, that calm power that says, I don't need to go back to be kind. I don't need to answer to be healed. And maybe you'll respond with grace. Maybe you won't respond at all. But whatever you choose, it'll come from strength, not fear. Because this time, your silence isn't protecting your heart from them. It's protecting your peace for you. And that, right there, is the moment of return. Not theirs, but yours. The moment you realize you've come back home to yourself, you thought no contact was about losing them. But it was never about them. It was always about you. The silence you feared became the space that saved you. The emptiness you dreaded became the doorway to your own strength. And the stillness that once felt unbearable, that's the sound of your nervous system healing. You didn't just stop reaching out, you stopped reaching backward. And that's the difference. Because real peace, the kind that stays, doesn't come when they finally text back. It comes when you finally stop waiting for them to. It comes when you realize that closure isn't something you get from another person, it's something you create inside yourself. You stop chasing clarity and start embodying it. You stop performing worthiness and start living it. You stop fighting for love and start being love. And that's when silence turns holy. That's when stillness becomes sacred. Because now, you don't need to be chosen to be valuable. You don't need to be understood to be at peace. You don't need to be missed to matter. You've learned what most people spend a lifetime avoiding. Peace is not the absence of connection, it's the presence of self. So when they come back, or when the past starts whispering again, you'll smile. Not out of arrogance, out of wisdom. Because you've seen what's on the other side of chaos, and you'll never trade your peace for noise again. You'll know that silence isn't revenge, it's resurrection. It's the rebirth of your boundaries, the reclaiming of your energy, the rebuilding of your self-respect. You'll know that love without peace isn't love, it's addiction. And you'll never mistake the two again. So if you take nothing else from this message, take this. No contact isn't about disappearing. It's about returning returning to your voice, returning to your worth, returning to your power, returning home. Because when you stop waiting for someone else to give you peace, you finally remember you've had it all along. And that, my friend, is the real reason no contact works. It doesn't make them miss you. It makes you meet you.